What is going down, you awesome and vicious camera geeks? Sam from CameraLegend.com, and we are back today. And I got a very special episode for you guys today. This is actually a long time in coming. I was taking a look at the list of the most popular reviews on the CameraLegend.com blog, and I've always been kind of surprised that this camera consistently comes up as one of the most viewed reviews. And that camera is perhaps my favorite point and shoot compact camera of all time. It is the original Ricoh GR Digital. And today we are specifically going to be talking about the original version, the 8.1 megapixel version. Now, if you have one of the other versions of the Ricoh GR Digital or the GR cameras, not to fret, because a lot of the things that will apply to this camera will also probably apply to your camera. But again, I'm specifically going to be talking about the 8.1 megapixel version. Now, before we continue, let's take a look at a little bit of the history of the original Ricoh GR Digital.
I even got a camera tonight, boy, and it's a new one called Ricoh GR Digital.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the original Ricoh GR Digital, and it is an 8.1 megapixel digital point and shoot camera. It is the direct descendant of the famous Ricoh GR1 film camera, a true camera legend. And as a member of the Ricoh GR family, the first thing you'll notice right away about the Ricoh GR Digital, if you are a camera lover, is its distinctive and now iconic looks, which I would describe as pedestrian. Neither attractive nor is it ugly, which probably is one of the reasons that makes it such a great street camera. But what looks plain on the outside is extraordinary on the inside. And it all starts with the lens. And this is 5.9mm f2.4 Ricoh GR lens, which in 35mm equivalent is a 28mm f2.4 lens. So all the cameras in the Ricoh GR Digital and GR series are distinguished by a fixed wide-angle prime lens that is of high quality. Alright, so as I said, this review was probably a long time in coming. I should have done it a long time ago. And I hate to admit it, part of it was a little bit of selfishness on my side, because I was basically hoarding these cameras. So at one point I had about 5 of these cameras, believe it or not. At the lowest I ever got them for like 30 bucks. But then what happened was, as I explained in the blog, I noticed the prices were going up, and I didn't want to add to this price increase, because, you know, not only for you guys, but for myself, because as I said, I was hoarding these cameras. But now I'm down to 3 of them, which I think is a comfortable thing. So one right here, I got one for color. I got this one right here for black and white. I got the wide angle adapter on it, which turns into like a poor man's GR21. And I got one in the drawer in case one of these break. So at least I'll always have one working one. So as you can see how much I love these cameras, all right? And the main reason for that is because of this camera's ability to produce what they call film-like digital black and white images. Now, as a film shooter myself, I have to say, my disclaimer is, nothing really beats true black and white film. But I do understand that we live in a digital age where not everybody shoots film anymore. So if you don't shoot film, this is the next best thing as far as I'm concerned. Well, so let's take a look at some black and white images that I've taken with this camera over the years. And then we're gonna come back and we'll go over the prices. We're gonna go over potential issues with this camera. And I'm also gonna give you, upon request, because several people have requested this, I'm also gonna give you my personal settings to get the best black and white images out of this camera. But right now, let's take a look at 15 years of the Ricoh GR Digital. All right, you awesome war-torn geeks. Now I'm going to give you my settings for the very best black and white street shots out of this camera. All right, so because you asked, some of you anyway, here are my menu settings. Now if you look at the quality, I have it on fine, the very largest, JPEG, the highest quality. The focus is snap. I use the snap mode, but the main reason I use snap mode on the Ricoh GR Digital is because this camera has a definite shutter lag. So if you keep it in snap mode, everything will be sharp and you won't have to worry about the camera wasting time trying to find focus. Okay? Alright, so continuing down, my IMG set is black and white, and if you go in a little further, you see my contrast is almost all the way up, and the sharpness is one notch up from the default. Right? And that's pretty much it for my Ricoh GR Digital best black and white settings. And funny thing is, I was actually kind of surprised at how many folks wrote to me asking for the settings. I was surprised because I figured that, you know, most people, and I would encourage most people to actually play around with the settings themselves, because, you know, what I like might not necessarily be what you like. You know what I mean? What's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. And what is a gander anyway, right? Anyway, so first thing you want to do with this camera, set it on JPEG, okay? There is RAW mode in here, but the RAW mode is very slow to write. And, you know, that's good for landscapes or buildings, but it's not good for on-the-fly candid street photography. Plus, you want the JPEG setting because that's where the Ricoh processing comes from. So on this camera, I definitely recommend using the JPEG setting. So that's number one, okay? The next step you want to do is, for me, if I'm shooting during the daytime, I always either keep it on aperture priority or manual mode. But manual mode, I put it when the light gets a little dimmer. But on this camera, if you put it in aperture priority or program, it's very reliable. So no issues with that. Plus, because of the small sensor, you're almost always going to get a sharp image. All right, so this is not your bokeh camera, okay? Because of that small sensor. This is your street camera. This is why it's a great street camera, okay? So again, during the daytime, I use it on aperture priority. When it comes to darker conditions or nighttime, I put it on manual. I keep the camera in snap mode. Now, if you watch my Ricoh GR1 video, you know that I never use the snap mode on the GR1 because the LCD went bad on my GR1 and I can't see it. But on this camera, I keep it in snap mode because basically for street photography, with such a small sensor, this camera is always going to get sharp images as long as you got enough light and the shutter speeds are fast enough. Next step you want to do is I almost always leave this camera at ISO 400 or ISO 800. All right, and I never change the settings. The reason I never change the settings is because of probably the main issue with this camera, which I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so one of the main issues of this camera, one of the main problems on this camera is as they get older, this adjustment dial or push in button, it becomes unresponsive. Okay, now normally you would press this so that you can get to the ISOs and other features, but because they become unresponsive, when you press it, it actually freezes the camera. And so to remedy that, you would actually have to take the battery out and reset it. But what I do is I go into the menu and I adjust the ISO right here, as you can see, and I leave it there all day depending on the conditions, you know, where I'm shooting that day. So you got to kind of plan it out, man. All right, so if any of you guys are looking for this camera, the good news is that this camera is still easily found and relatively affordable at between $100 to $150. Now, there was a time when the prices were going up, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to make a video review on it, because I didn't want to help bump the prices up. As I said, I was hoarding these cameras myself, so I know what the prices were. All right, so the good news is that it seems to have fizzled out a little bit, and it might sound strange coming from me, but I believe that this is a camera that for the majority of the folks out there, it's a camera whose time has come and gone because we are living in a 20 to 50 megapixel world, and you know, an 8.1 megapixel camera with a small sensor doesn't appeal to a lot of people, except for really hardcore GRD original lovers like myself and maybe you. So if you have any hesitation about this camera, I would just say this. Even though you're living in a 20 to 50 megapixel world, right? This camera is not about the high megapixels. This camera is about that film-like look, film-like black and white. So this camera shouldn't be seen as just another point and shoot, because it really is not. It should be seen as a specialized tool for black and white photography, for black and white street photography, okay? If you consider it like that, it is an awesome deal, man, because how much is it gonna cost you to get a Leica monochrome? 4,000 bucks, 5,000 maybe? I'll take this, all right? Anyway, yeah. So, as I said, this is a great camera for black and white street photography, and it's perhaps my favorite of all time. Well, you know what though? Let me be honest with you guys. I say that a lot, but I'm always at a toss-up between this one, the GR1 film camera, and the Konica Hexar as my favorite. But this is definitely one of my top 3 favorites for black and white street photography, okay? All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you got anything out of this, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Tell a friend about it. Help me grow the channel. I really do appreciate you guys who have subscribed, and we're gonna take this ride together and see what other camera legends we can find. So until the next camera legend, I thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time on thecameralegend.com. And this one is for you, babe. This one is probably, and this might be the most mini-mite shutter that you'll ever hear, but don't let that gentle bark fool you, because this camera will bite in black and white images. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time on thecameralegend.com YouTube channel.
Cameralegend.com